Nevertheless, the very real deterrent effects of nuclear weapons must be taken into account in our analysis. So the disarmament of Iraq and Libya led to both of those countries being attacked, invaded, because they were seen by the West as an easy target, by Western countries seeking to destroy threats to their domination, regional domination. Now, in both cases, those countries have been left completely destabilized and have become hotbeds for non-state militias. Groups like Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda have used these states to set up training camps. They've looted weaponry from the weapon stores of those states after they collapsed, and have effectively turned those countries into bases from which to destabilize the surrounding region. In other words, Iraq and Libya show the dangers of deproliferation, because by giving up nuclear weapons, both of these countries, or nuclear weapons programs I should say, both countries left themselves vulnerable to attacks which actually ultimately destabilized the entire region. Okay? Now, in contrast to this, North Korea learnt the lessons of Iraq and Libya. And in contrast, North Korea did not give up its nuclear weapons program, in fact, stepped it up, continued to develop its nuclear weapons, with the result that the US is now extremely reluctant to wage war against North Korea. So it's no exaggeration to say that it may well be North Korea's nuclear weapons which have prevented the region, the East Asian region, from being pushed into the kind of chaos we now see in the Middle East. The argument goes that if North Korea did not have nuclear weapons, it may well have met the same fate as Iraq and Libya, been attacked by the US and so on. Don't forget, in 2003, George Bush proclaimed that there was an axis of evil, 3 evil states that had to be basically overthrown by war: Iran, Iraq and North Korea. Iraq was destroyed by a US and British war. Iran is still very much in the crosshairs of the US. Donald Trump has talked about ending the nuclear deal with Iran, and he's stepping up hostilities with Iran all the time. But of course, with North Korea, although these threats are traded all the time, there is no appetite, I believe, in the US for an attack on North Korea, because they know the retaliation will be so severe. So in conclusion, it's hard to make a blanket judgment about the effects of WMDs and nuclear weapons. Coming from an approach influenced by dependency theory, I tend to understand global politics through the prism of the ongoing struggle between basically the global north and the global south. The struggle of the global north, and especially the Western world, to maintain its domination over the global south, and on the other hand, the struggle of the global south to resist this domination. Now, from this perspective, the vertical proliferation by the Western powers, such as the US and the UK, is the real threat to peace, as they are constantly developing more usable nuclear weapons, and indeed have shown their willingness to use nuclear weapons in the past, and are regularly involved in military attacks on the global south, as evidenced by the wars on Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, and so on today. The development of weapons by the global south, on the other hand, can serve as a very useful deterrent, preventing Western powers from taking the risk of waging war against them. Now, the most obvious case here is the comparison between Iraq and Libya on the one hand, that gave up their nuclear weapons, suffered an attack that has destabilized and threatened the peace of the whole region, and on the other hand, North Korea, which has not been attacked and as a result is still at peace. So that would be my conclusion, that the vertical proliferation of nuclear weapons by the powers of the global north is indeed a very serious threat to peace, as these powers have shown their willingness to use nuclear weapons, and their willingness to use military attacks regularly on the global south shows that their proliferation is a real threat to peace. On the other hand, the development of nuclear weapons by the global south can actually help to maintain the peace by deterring attacks by the northern powers. Thanks for listening.